Good morning. We start with Lama Tsongkhapa Guru Yoga from the small booklet. From the heart of the Savior of 100 deities of Tushita, on a peak of cloud resembling a clam of extremely white fresh curd, King of Dhamma, omniscient Losan Drapa, please come here together with your sons. In the sky before me on a lion throne, lotus and moon, my perfect pure Guru smiles with delight. Supreme field of merit for my mind of faith, please abide for 100 yons to spread the teachings. Your holy mind has the intelligence that understands the full extent of objects to be known. Your holy speech with its excellent explanations is an ear ornament for those of good fortune. Your holy body is radiantly beautiful with glory renowned. To you who are meaningful to see, hear, and remember, I prostrate. Pleasing drinking water, various flowers, fragrant incenses, lice, scented waters, and so forth. Oceans of cloud-like offerings, both actually arranged and mentally emanated, I offer to you the supreme field of merit. Whatever non-virtue of body, speech, and mind, especially those opposite to the three vows that I have collected from beginningless time, I confess each and every one with fervent regret from my heart. You strove for much learning and practice in this degenerate age, and made your freedoms and richnesses meaningful by abandoning the eight worldly concerns. Saviour, we sincerely rejoice in your extensive deeds. Perfect pure holy Gurus, from the billowing clouds of wisdom and compassion in the sky of Dharmakaya, please let fall a rain of profound and extensive Dharma upon the receptacle of those to be subdued, exactly as they need. May whatever virtue I have collected benefit the teachings and all transmigratory beings, and in particular may it cause the essence of perfect pure Losandrapa's teachings to shine forever. Sajibuki Chushik Metok Tramari Rablinshi Nidegempadi Sangeshindu Miteolwa Idrokunamda Shila Chuparshu. By the merits of having offered this mandala to Lama Tsongkhapa and his two sons, may I, my family members, and all sentient beings be able to meet, practice, and actualize the teachings of the victorious one Losan Drapa, who had a morality of eminently pure way of life, was courageous in the extensive conduct of the sons of the victorious ones, and accomplished the yoga of two stages of supreme bliss and emptiness. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. By the force of having fervently requested in this way, hollow beams of white light are emitted from the hearts of the perfect pure Father and Son, and combining into one enter my crown. White nectar, the color of milk, flows from the opening of tube of white light. cleansing all my sicknesses, spirit harms, negative karmas, obscurations, and their imprints without exception. My body becomes as pure and clear as crystal. Now we recite 5-line Miktsema 3 times. Migme tsewe terche chenre zik drime giempe wampo jamfel yang dupo malu jonze sawe dak kanchen kepe tsungen tsongka pa losan drape shabla solwade Migme tsewe terchen chenre zik Drime giempe wampo jampeliang, dupo malu jonze sawedak, kanchen gepe tsungen tsongkapa, losan drape shabla solwade. Mikmet sewe terchen chen rezik, drime gempe wampo jampeliang, dupo malu jonze sawedak, kanchen gepe tsungen tsongkapa, losan drape shabla solwade.
Sangi Chodang Soji Chonum La Chanchu Pardu Dani Japsun Dagi Chushi Yeban the Dagi Rolam Pins Sangi Rupara Sho Sangi Chodang Soji Chonum La Chanchu Pardu Dani Japsun Dagi Chushi Yeban the Dagi Rolam Pins Sangi Rupara Sho Sangye chedan soji chonum la chanchu pardu dan kyabsun dagi chushe yebande dagi rolamben sangye drupara sho kangi tukze nye zone tawa tamche pambi chere tambi chun tenze kodam tela chanse lo shishin kyongon javi lo rut kesan nawe genju lekshi su tabi peche lame zibi tongde tembe tongden la chanse 나물라에 깨도 얻는 중 주변다다 미께는 로군지 다는 점 탐지께도 다기 최된 또 Good morning everyone. 셔버들이
Shabbat
이어세스
No, tingsan chardu go tsudo again.
거래
Chawa tangda di shoba samsa lani chugunda chawa geje.
아 yes 지화직 로야 yes 뮤직 지화직 danse
So one of the Geshela students sent us the question. The question is regarding the refuge and bodhisattva vows that Geshe-la will be offering next month. And she say, I will be grateful if you could pass on my question. I'm not confident that I can commit to never eating meat or drinking alcohol. I still want to make a commitment to improving these things, like not becoming intoxicated, refraining from killing even small insects. But is this enough? Can I still take 5 precepts and bodhisattva vows and live as a Buddhist while attached to these things?
Tanda tiwa de dirishakin. Ta jama tanda kiamru da chanshu sambiki domba naya diri diwarwas. Ane morang tanda chanshu sambi domba nangla ne tanda shada chang bet pang sedi tanda chikala dingzi roshi ligi mindos. Ini yang ta sochu pangya tsewe ki le pangya la sopa da ta dizu di chikdes ta chitu sari samsan roshi dos. Di chidu ini morang ta shada chang ta dis tenbe toni chanju sembi domba lena digiyo namyo nasi.
근데 아 당연히 샷사다 마사세 데이터 음 저버지기 어렸으라 저녁지 어렸다 오늘 지났다 샤마세나 다 약슈레도 아스라 샤마세나 약슈레도 이내야 베나 nganzu tan dui shong la ya dui shong la ta penara ani kyamju domba re ani genging gu domba re ani getsolong gu domba lenche labja la labi kaptu la ani shasa chogu mare seji ta yo mare sra
So whether one could kind of eat meat or not is kind of a debatable thing. Of course, it is best if one could completely avoid consuming meat. But still, if you look at the Vinaya literature, when a disciple takes um, layperson's precept or refuge precepts or fully ordained monk's precept, there is no kind of advice or admonition which completely prohibits the practitioner to consume meat.
아, 다 chanchu sembi domba jinche chanchu sembi domba jinne labja la labi kaptu la ani shasana ta rongu mares kena shasa muchos kena shasa seba ngi domba jinga mens an dindi song yo mares tera kena shasa seba ngi domba jinga mens dindi song yo mares kezi masena ta yakshu inza ani seba ina chanchu sembi domba lenche an dini ya chanchu sembi domba lemba tsamma ba chik chanchu gu semla ya lo jongo kuras chanchu semla lo jangi shema di ani cham nyingi chamba da nyingi gomche ani chanchu semla lo jango ganza chamba da nyingi gompa dun roya la ya ani chik yakbo ji samla tamatu na ani sha saya digi ani cham nyingi gompa dun roya la negyo yong sikba chiris rwa ani shenla tsewi tsewa ani nyong rin ro sikba jinza tsewi samba di chong rin ro waya na ani chanchu sem kiya la ya nyug yoras ani chanchu sem kiya la ne baya na ani chanchu sem gi domba langbi ta goden ro ji ta chugu yo marwas dindi jik song yores ra
Okay. And then, moreover, there is also no statement which completely prohibits a practitioner to consume meat or statement which says that bodhisattva precept or bodhisattva vow cannot be granted to those who consume meat. So there is no such kind of statements. However, the whole purpose of taking the vow, bodhisattva vow, is to enhance and advance one's practices, and then consuming the meat, um, um, of course, may undermine one's practice of love and compassion, because the practice of love and compassion is the foundation for cultivating bodhicitta, and then therefore, consuming meat may undermine one's practice.
terda sebu chin nganzu ha koya di kari yorslan di chidang 좀된 디기 조그마리 세기 조그마리 세기 측디 아니 배주치에도 변인용레스 룽구마리 세디 빈일을 개바치더라 룽구마리 세지다 조그마리 세디 배는 산삼 로지나 걔랑 게 조그마리스 라그라다 만주 걔랑 만주 산삼 나라를 걔랑 척제면은 주 조그마리세 맞도 롱모롱 깨지듯이 시에 말아서라 좀된 디기 랍제 나라야 롱다 마롱기 아니 까메디어 마도 촉마초기 아니 디슈요 말했으라 더 롱고 말했어 가이스나 아니 베나 샤 세바이나 삼리 야부치 타마도나 아니 랑기 참니지 잔주고 셈고 냠내려야 누구 여반자 삼리 야부치 타마도나 누구 여반자 아니 롱고 말했어 무롬이 준세 디레스다
And then in Buddhist literature, generally speaking, it's very rare to find statements such as you are not permitted to do that or you're not allowed to do that. It's very rare to find such statements, but rather you will find statement which says it's better if you do not eat meat or if you do not kind of do that. And so there is a distinction between these two statements. So if you consume meat, then it may hinder one's own practice of love and compassion. It may undermine one's practice. So therefore, it is advised, or it is not suitable to kind of consume meat. But you won't find direct statements such as you are not permitted to eat meat or you are not allowed to eat meat. So such statements are such statements rarely occurs.
데니 nganzu domballen ondigi zawigi songja kelen goyachi kelen damja che goyajoras di nanglo la yaji shasa mensni kelen zawigi damja che gosa jik yo maresta bigi domba sanji chomden di nangsha bigi dombegi ani zawigi sigjora da dombi chogajora di nanglo la ya zawigi dombegi zawigi songja gi nanglo la ya kelen goyagi ani 디어 말이 쏙 제기면서 켈랭고거리 마지막 랭기면서 켈랭고거리 로임 제기면서 켈랭고거리 창 토그면서 켈랭고 두수 케만렘 바이나 domba 끼기요 말이스 이네 디 나노야 샤 사기면서 켈랭고야 딘디지 에 자비 송전날 디요 말이스
And then, moreover, if you check the liturgy of taking the vows, you will there are few basic precepts that one should abide by. So in that, there is statements such as one should avoid killing, one should refrain from killing, taking others' life, one should refraining from stealing, taking what's not given, one should avoid from taking intoxicants, and so on and so forth. But there is no statement which says that you should avoid from eating, consuming meat.
디자다 domba 칸다 지 렘바이나야 샤 사기면서 담자 제국이요 말이스다 로 샤산의 디그리스 라고 말다세 야구지 싸움다 말 샤산의 디그리스 닐라고요 말다스 이나야 샤 세바이나 자비 동안단 가드로야기 안디 요 말이스다 네바 연거르스는 땐데 네바 요라다 네바 요로 왔으라 이마이네 자비 동안단 가드로만 베는 창로이나 자비 동이나 레고레스 자와단 가야기 인디는 레고레스
So therefore, the point is that in the kind of root text of the liturgy to receive vows, there is no direct statement which prohibits a practitioner to consume meat, but that is not to say that you are allowed or it's okay to consume meat. But consuming meat does not really directly violates the basic basic precepts, but drinking alcohol or taking intoxicants directly violates the precepts because refraining from drinking alcohol is one of the basic precepts. Then, of course, if you ask, do we create negative karma by consuming meat? Of course, we do create negative karma.
다 domba pena kyamru domba te ta nambala yen jugbigo ani kyamru dere kyamru domba lengo warasra kyamru tsam gu domba nalola pena chang tong mese keleng tamja de yomare shasag mese keleng tamja dele kya yomares tenza ta chik sozo namba chendu chi pigi kyamru tsam gita kawkala genyi domba segdo o di lembala ani chang tong mese keleng chigu mares ro 다 디니 따지 게닝 동바 비기 따 아니 용조 게닝 동바 더 레온디 아니 송장아 디 아니 송기 인스는 담 맞잖아 동바디 계기요 말이스 코초가 코라는 디어 등안주 디 시종진 드레르 마도 좀된 디강 아니 송바 디 시종진 드레르 마도 딘 기와타야기 아니 법당다 원세다 디 간절 요 말아왔으라 땅 안에 단답하다 좀 된 뒤 팸니 강 제번 디 시종치는 드레르 모두 좀된 뒤 공부 양인 데스비질다 좀된 뒤 슈요 말 간순 교왔다는 디그리 세지 수치글요 말했어. 수치글다 라마 칸드지 엠베 아니 삼기 메케버지 뭐냐 좀된 뒤긴 뒤비 제번 교왔다게 톱단 수치글요 말했어. 좀된 뒤 코라는 마도
And then when you take the vows or the refuge vows, in the refuge vow, there is no kind of precepts of refraining from consuming meat or drinking alcohol. And then later, of course, if you decided to take the layperson's precept, which you have 5 precepts to abide by, and within that, there is the statement to avoid drinking intoxicants or alcohol. So that if you, when you take the vow, if you mentally kind of promise to abide by that, then you won't kind of receive the vow. So that is whenever we engage in granting the vow, we must try to abide by the tradition in accordance with the tradition because there is what originally prescribed and advised by Buddha himself, and no teacher could in fact change what has been explained in Vinaya. So so majority of the Vinaya rules, Vinaya precepts were directly advised by Buddha himself. And after, aftermath of Buddha's passing, no other teacher, can change that tradition and change that Vinaya rules.
다 디니 다 창통야 디 딘디 녀가 첨부 가르레스 자위 동에 나라 샤고야 아니 다 샤사야 디 마샤바기 다 균진지어다 다 간지 창동 무초야 다 창동 맨슨 탐자지고야 균진 가르레스 해줘 다 딩안주 하고 와이나 데니 창가야라 다 편도 첨부여레스라
And then you might wonder that, well, alcohol is listed in one of the 5 root kind of 5 root precepts, but rather not the eating meat, then you might wonder why drinking alcohol is considered such a kind of negative act.
다디 균생 카르레스 nganzuta number sangi chö cheya koran nganzuta 지 sem trubig lo o shinjulo lo marong lo di tsamma soyagi tabshi chiki ani chö nyamne di chigiyores hartugna diri mado dini jem goba shen kanya da meba rojires ro rang da shengi gyugi marong lo shinjulo lo trubig lo di seyagi tabdela ani chomden digi ta chögi labshadi tembari was Tinza dan chang tongba ina sem chuba shugdrowaza sem la chuba shugdrowaza nganzo sem chuba drowaza chakdang nimu gube chuba drowaza di gang la nembe gyab gwaazi da tsawa nini da deyo marwasa ra tinza dan chang tongna di nembe gyab sura chagwanza di tsawa nini chö dan tonggu yo marita chö nyamnengi da goba dang ganji teni da tonggu mewa inza digi mewa inza 아니 창통 모르와도 송바리스 제바든 제바리스 따라
So the reason behind why alcohol is prohibited, or alcohol is, one is advised not to consume alcohol, is that the whole purpose of Buddha Dharma or practice of Buddha Dharma is really to try to eliminate ignorance and confusion from our mind. We have immense kind of wrong and distorted views. So we already have so much confusion, but then taking intoxicants will only only add more confusion. So since we are already very confused, there is no need to take an additional substance to make us more confused. So therefore, since drinking intoxicants fundamentally violates the purpose of Buddhist practice, so therefore it is a kind of alcohol is advised to kind of to not to consume alcohol.
다 드니 가서다 좀된 디기다 나왕 세직 송여레스 나왕 다디 케바야고 치운다 창그 ngoi 차니 베 틱바치가다 나왕디 요 말레스 창 코랑 ngoi 차니 아니 가서다 자이 시와 장야 자이 시와 장야 다 아니 동초야기 나왕디 요 말레스 가서 샘 트비 균조연자 다 임바 있나야 네바 다지 아니 나차다 소라 투구 여바나 아니 디레 팽구 여바나 안 테스트 동야기 나와디 텐데 유지레스 디스 다 딘디지여다 딘디지여레스라
Yes. And then within the kind of such rules, there are certain exceptions, of course. For instance, although Buddha strictly prohibits or advises his disciples not to consume any form of intoxicants because it adds to more confusion of mind. However, if you are having some physical condition that requires alcohol, or if some certain substances contribute for your condition, for your health condition, then in that case you might be you might could consume. So there are such few exceptions.
다 리바도 니에서스라 리바도 디 리바데 다 딘디 다 진짜 그 리글람 띵예 봐야나 아니 소소소 탑시 지해진도 왔으라.
Yes. So therefore, there are certain exceptions or kind of loopholes. So if you find this, then you can navigate through that.
패시 드긴지.
Yes.
Enough. More question. You have some questions?
Good morning, Geshela. What is the difference between rebirth and reincarnation? Is there a difference? Thank you.
And that rebirth season that namji chewa lemba terwa and reincarnation lo da mangcho jik jida tsigrang chenda chikbar de ni tana zo ta lama tu ku ki yangsi peptan chora ta chewa lemba da yangsi pepa de ni la cheba khan yores.
골프면 알아 링분이 키워졌다 세라 그 골프지요 말다 알아 링부 쉐샤야티 티 골프다 알아 니 키워다 티소르지레스
So the the difference between rebirth and reincarnation is quite similar to someone who is bald but having lots of uh, underneath beard.
It's my friend. 아즈제 단 양식 버게와 렌스 라운디게 지단 게와 쌈을 다 고기요 말했어. 아니 오늘 지 가서 다 삼션도 게와도지. 삼션도 게와도지. nganzo ta shen yangge mele ki go samgo re ne ya ki thu ma thu ta rawan roji yo marwasra ta lama ke wa thamba di yangge mele ki wala ta ani rawan gi thoni ani ke wa shiwa chi ya tsigi yo res ta di tsigi yo res ro
Yes. Technically speaking, when we say rebirth, no, when we say reincarnation, technically speaking, that term is the equivalent of the Tibetan term yang Kyewa Lemba, which refers to taking kind of reincarnated with one's own choice. For instance, for ordinary sentient beings, when we die, maybe we wanted to reborn as a human, but if we have not gained control over our birth, we can't decide that. But for highly realized practitioners, they can decide their next kind of destination or next rebirth. So when a practitioner is deliberately born with one's own choice, then such kind of conditions, we use the term reincarnation. One is reincarnated.
good re pena tanda jawa rumbuchi jawa kundin chushi bat chago res jawa kundin thangbo jawa gendun trup teni 또 공부 개추 슈기레스 라 개추 슈거레스 아니 콩다 자व름 붙이 자우콘데 당부 차고레스 아 콩야 공로다 든주 장아 개추 마송송 레베카들라 아니 콩기 로마 속에다 콩라야 안다 자व름 붙이다 아니 데니 아니 직구세 펜버 좋은디야 아니 직 답이신라야 아니 배우기로 왔어 이는 당간조 아니 가서 다지 고한다 깨매죠 차르그레스 아니 로마 딘디기야 아니 자오르모치를 슈디기 안 자오르모치가 안지 데니 체페니 다신 라이케 삼송기 안 딘디케메스 마다비신질에 끼치는 문투니 아니 템바던 조발야 펜토사 아니 신 딘디질이야 깨월래야 마도 마 탁비실래야 깨 삼성 디 메스 어 디송 요레스 디송버 시종 그 민투니 로 라마 깨진다 뭐망보 직배나 아니 탁비실래야 페요레스 이네 콩 민투니 아니 직dengi 미유 디나니 직 배 간진 종래야 아니 총신으로 군지 림시 아니 배기 아니 최다 리숑 아니 간지 아니 데둘래야 시치니 그 기와 삼션도 기와 셰여바다 베세부 쇼치로 아 딘디 딘디요레스 다 디다오레스로 당원이 양시 팽이 딘디지 차고레스
So, for instance, if we look at the history behind the successive Dalai Lama, the present Dalai Lama is, of course, the 14th Dalai Lama, and the first Dalai Lama was Gyaltsen Trup. So Gyaltsen Trup lived around 80 years, 80s. So in his late 70s, some of his disciples approached him and said that after His Holiness, passed away, you would ascend to the Pure Land, but the disciples here, we will left with no guide, no protector, and no teacher. And to which His Holiness the First Dalai Lama replied that after my passing, I have no intention to go to a pure land, but rather I would like to come back to an impure land and continue to serve for the well-being of the teaching and the sentient beings. So just as he kind of, his aspiration was to come back to an impure land and serve the sentient beings. So since then, all the successive Dalai Lama, take rebirth in this world, particularly in Tibet, and work for the well-being of the sentient beings. So these are the kind of illustration of highly realized masters who deliberately take rebirth to serve sentient beings, who deliberately reincarnated to serve sentient beings.
다디 카레스나 지단기 다 dombasumgi 냠네 여바 디나네 다직 찬주 셈비 domballen 찬주 셈기 로종도 센통불레 온디 데니 지 소소 기부지다 소소 대부지 지 텐디질이야 지 로삼송 다 키나 삼송기 삼로 자원이니 코르요 마레스 아니 냠타비 심제 요사 아니 지 강가 요사 텐디질이야 로체니 아니 시한라야 삼바 남다가 로버치 삼송기 로지마도 용구요사 마레스라 딘디 레온디 테니치 아니 가두 가두 체바이나야 강가 가주 체바이나야 가시 트로싱 뭐네 강가 동len치야 로버치야 마도 당가 깔레 가도 당가 지 지금도 삼송기 지 로포스 도부 마키바치야데 자원이니 용구요 마레스 대다 잔주섬 로종 제투바나 딘디차거다 메시디 키우 용거리 깨워치마 깨워 삼부고 된리 예고 말한신 레인 거레스 들어
So what this indicates is that when one practices the three precepts, when one perfects these practices of three precepts, and when one advances in the one's mind training practices, then instead of aspiring to go to a pure land, instead of thinking for one's own kind of well-being, such practitioners, such masters would rather choose to go to impure land where there are suffering sentient beings. And then by kind of reincarnated, taking rebirth in such impure lands, they continue to serve for the well-being of suffering sentient beings. And when a practitioner, when a master advances one's practice of bodhicitta, then one also becomes courageous to face all the challenges that one may encounter in the pursuit of helping sentient beings.
tenzi ta nganzu ta lochunjung gongni ani chik samlo tangdang tezo la chik jang tuba na gyaji gyatama susu mese nanglo la ya pe pendo yo res rwa nganzu chik ani kanji randun ji mandrubu chini ani di tola ya semdre di tola ya pusu tobu ani di tola ya magiba chini ro dengi ta hajang mangbu rwa sara teni ji lo gyachimbu kietang chik ani chik shen la ya rogba chiya ani shenpeng ki samlo kiya ki ani chik labsha rawa di pe nyungyong rwa sara debi lo chik kashi chik nala nga inshi janga rwa sara inshi jang sa kita peki ki nganzu rwa kyangya re ta porto morto rwa kyangya re ingyu da inba yana nganzu lobdab di ani kharan zan zan tangbo nipa tiki lobdab di ani nganzu le che yungo re sara ina lobdab di nanglo la nganzu stawndi lobdab di nanglo la ngone chik sosam chi gore ani shenpen shen la rogba chi gore rang li shen kai cheba re se tsik daw tes tes chuk tuba na mi mangbu shuji la pensa re asam sam roj ima ina dindi tsik chi ya me gyu roj su 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 gu chik ramden kanda chi dhugu yo me ani dindi chi ma do chik 매겨르다 디존의 딘지기 책 약부 도 주니 로종고 고급디 춘중권의 직제도나 간다 약부여 삼사를 나라 춘중권의 장바에서 디 계시무 슈 통과해서 서로 참도 딘딜레도 하시라
So, so, so if we could familiarize ourselves with such noble ideals, it will definitely have a very strong impact for one's own life. So usually we tend to, totally immersed in self-interest alone, and we tend to ignore others' well-being. But then if we could kind of think and familiarize ourselves with such noble ideals, definitely it will have a very huge impact for self and others. For instance, I'm taking the English course here, and then of course the manuals that we use probably meant for the first and second
all
standard.
and
Login.
tama gengoro nganzo kyangyares gengoro
Ale.
kyangyares ra
So all the students, they were rather elderly people who come there to learn English as a second language. And then when I go through the textbook manual, the sentences I find, I do not find any kind of sentences or rather examples which talks about such noble ideals, such positive thoughts. So I thought it would be very nice if there are certain examples and example sentences which talks about such ideals, such positive thoughts. But rather, most of these sentences, most of the examples are all about how to achieve success for oneself and so on and so forth.
and Toya, you have questions? Excellent. Yeah. Dick.
Is it on? Okay. Let me think about it for a second. Okay. What relationship with our self-perception should we strive to have to obtain like peace and calmness?
Ja. Pichindi sungi sargen ta nganzo sem la shidi da ani are sem gi shidi da sem gi lecha ro da sem gi shidi tendi tobe la ani susu la chik ta thang ro da ngunzi chi thang chi ro di kandich kugres.
당한주 draw missing in there was ra peshi di yakshu ingiris there nganzu draw missing in there nganzu la ji draw shin penata ji thundro dangan su thong de there ta 던루 내단데 간주 온섬 통대더라 콘줄라 지 간주 난신기 남주도 자원이 요말하다 라 다 딜리 지 녀와 예다세죠 다 되저도 딜리 껴고요라서 간주라 온네 잔니기 아니 폭양 림부 아니 지 소소 지고 많이 봐 민망부 지기 아니 대둑 삼야기 남주 풀도 좋아지 당 간주라 요라서 소소라 딘지 남주 풀도 좋아기 기획 리바 여바디 문진치 투바나 디기 쇼지 팽그메로스라 디 펜도 야슈디 디니 연구였어레스
Yes. So the first, or the rather, the most important thing is to recognize the unique potential that we human species have as compared to other species. For instance, if you look at the animal kingdom, animal world, we see that they lack the intelligence to think about the larger well-being of the larger kind of society. Then, of course, if you talk about well-being and so on and so forth, they do not have that faculty, but rather we human species are gifted with this intelligence to think not only about oneself, but to think about the well-being of other sentient kinds. So if we could recognize this potential, if we could recognize this unique quality, this will also highly contribute for the peace.
자다 지 간주 민망부 지기려야 당이 투구 말이 니 연구 말이 삼삼러지 안 데니 딘디 지 소소소 아니 마 가서다 지 보수도 소샤야죠라서 대응업은 내줄라 만삼을 찍버렸어 가리잖아 근데 캐란다오지기 아니 드리는 고츠 체니 넘버 인고 말레스 넘버 주고 말레스 임바이나 야 남비기 숑니 셰비 아니 지 잠인지 잔주고 셈라야 로장당레 아니 지 셰르블라야 로장당 딘디기 로 갸침부 깨당게 름발라 라야죠 딘디기 and to John Chidrovana, Debi Locho Chuchongi Jela, Gacha that Gacha Guchu Koranjik Tanganzu Taxi Turkana, Lomba Dinalaya, Mitonda Mambulaya, Labja Dig Tony, Pendo Chetungi, Chagravasro, or Disorajitaro. Labaina, Manzu Lab Tugrishin, Gacha Gatam Yorasro.
So therefore, it is quite important to recognize the kind of potential that we have. In many cases, we tend to think that well, I cannot do anything. We think we can't do anything. But when we recognize our own potential, it will also definitely have a very strong kind of impact. For instance, from now onwards, if you started to learn about the um, how to cultivate love and compassion, how to cultivate wisdom, and so on and so forth, you don't necessarily need to become a Buddhist to learn about such qualities, such ideals. But if you started to learn about how to cultivate love and compassion, how to cultivate wisdom, and so on and so forth, after 10, 15 years, you will become someone who can help others to cultivate such ideals. So therefore, by learning about such ideals, by learning about such qualities, inner qualities, definitely we could also contribute to the larger society.
Penanga Lut Chubdini Chenra. 아니 capture लेवाइंस capture मी लोंग बालारो पासपोर्ट में पैसा में फामा पिंजे में मी लोंग बाला ता धंधा बहुत ता लोग खरे पैसे शिवजू सम ड्रोगर दसरा शिवजू सम ड्रोगर दसरा रे लोता समझू सबकी सोगु छा ड्रोगर रे हिना गे सम नाला चावा नी निंगा चु शिंबा ड्रोज चावा नी केन्यो मेस 당이 용구 말이 투구 말이지 나 단다 버든가 다 미상말다 소줄롱바 요레 아니 소줄야 미세기 라케 요레 파스포르 요 자원이 메스가라로 메스 얘는 양 예삼라 자원이 shum바로 개념에서 디그 겐치네 가드나 나랑 가와 고미야 로지다 나랑 아니 도스키 보시는 로트야디 조 나랑 로이 또 그래서 아무것도 쓰러 아니 미수도 나가려야 장부치기도 야부치기도 대한 든지도 왔어라. 당이 두고 말이 니 용구 말이 상대바나 패시 단다가 뇽바 차는가 패시 뉴사에 기레스. 소소 롱바 요 말이 파마빈야 요 말. 파스포르 요 말. 아니 더발레는 가 로쭈르는 게 인지케니 신고만 될 벽에 경는 가마 찍으면도 요 말 왔어라. 가 니마치 심바도다 티. 자원인 개념에스. 끼고에스키면 왔어라.
And if you look at my own life, I become a refugee at the age of 17. And that time I had to flee my country, leaving everything behind. And then when I first reached India as a refugee, my family is not with me. I have no family. I have no kind of passport. I have no money. Basically, I have nothing. But now it's almost more than 40 years of living in exile. But still, I never let this situation undermine my inner strength and inner spirit. Because if I were to if I let that situation undermine my inner strength, then I would feel completely overwhelmed and may even become that situation may feel unbearable to me. But instead of feeling overwhelmed with that situation, I try to stand against that situation. And with that inner strength, I never thought, well, I can't do this, or, I never let that undermine my own inner strength and my potential. So with that spirit, even my relationship with others becomes very positive. So therefore, inner strength is very crucial in the face of such adversity and challenge.
럽종 최고다. 한주 럽종 최고다. 한주 로춘중 갈아야 다지. 아니 제모제야. 아니 로번냠도 참줘야기다. 아니 다 연구여라서 이네 디즈테 사브설치친. 아니 디즈 가즈 스라바나 디즈 담진친 소소 럽종 책임바나 로야스 레온디 드니 시니 드니 소르고도 하서라. 야, 춘중 가는 게 로종 맞아도 뺏사샤 삼삼로지. 신이기도 춘중 가는 디게 기금도 가서나 아니 고쁘고 삼로마도 매바인자 아니 참야당 제모제야당 안치 조보 조문냠도 다지 뒤즈당 되니지 아니 자만은 동 사야라 소바 다야 레온디 되니 신이 챙겨라서라 되디 마 단단히 sabzo 제바나 갸차 갸담바다 아니 마음바드니 아니 지 미동자 망불이야 팬도 치통인지 미지 차기로 왔어. 디 차야 리버여 건 상말 리버여스 들어.
So therefore, it's really important to um, kind of focus on one's education, because when we are young, of course, we tend to focus more on having fun. We can't see the importance of education when we are young, because we are not fully matured to see the significance of education. But as we enter into the adulthood, as we ages, then we started to see the importance of education. And then if we kind of didn't do well, then we might feel regretful. So therefore, it's really crucial to focus on one's education and see the value and the significance of education. And with that, definitely we will become, we all have the potential and the seed to become someone who can contribute to the larger society.
Have more questions? Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Okay, so
You can sit on the chair. Sorry.
how can one increase their self-control? For example, not to eat meat or do something to make one's mind more confused. Thank you.
단다게 랑조 지게 베나 샤미사야라보다 야나 티행기 따텐데 레 도가라 민주베기 직 삼노기 종다 저죠라 디다 칸데스 고츠고레 칸데스 지고레스 소소소소 당지체 줘라 당지체 단디 릭직다 직 샤사 레나 람사 사쇼레 지더 릭직들 당지체 토에스다 디기 니바디 칸데스 제신 지고레스
Ngalarwa. Gyönchik yorasro. Gyönchik 아니 대춘중 권이 즉 벽이 아니 사전 통보텔기 아니 대한 로범 상질기 남시 참무 안지 다 신도세다 미코는 통해요 말더니 지 아니 최마리 메사 아니 지 비기 나미기 아니 지 초디 아니 심진랑 라테니 초기 대사기 다 나미질기 완자 아니 춘중 권이 다 샤사고로스로 디지디야 첨부 차원디 즉 샤 아니 샤고 싸우나 베드 샤 짱마 샤서 드바이나 아니 zubolaya kanga mambu thech ti nyamnyong tone ti yungu do asra himayna mi pigi da chi ani tsawni ni sha samugonge ani mitri tondi ngone same thing yimu shogu do de ya sozu gi chi tachi do ani sha sha ya di kalka opendos tangan zo thambu sha ba na ro ina ta nyong ta ya da australia lewa ni chen ta nyong ta ya gi teni chagim pe ya do asra Thomas Edins.
Yes. Kind of one, how to say, a fault that I have is that I'm not completely pure vegetarian, because um, I was born in the highlands of Tibet in a nomadic region, and there in that place, there are no fruit, no vegetables, but our life, the nomadic life, is completely based on animal products. So because of that, we were so kind of accustomed, our body is so accustomed to, animal products, including meat. So, but then later, even if I try to, stop eating meat, relying on meat, sometimes I face certain health issues. So because of that, I occasionally had to rely on some animal products, including meat, to sustain my kind of health condition. But whenever I see someone who is completely vegetarian or vegan, I wholeheartedly admire that they could do that. But then after coming to Australia, there are very good facilities which I can reduce the consumption of the meat, even though I can't completely avoid.
Tanga jaga lomba gyurungu debara sir jaga lomba dedi gi ani jaga da chetan hindu gi ta jakab chirwa da hindu gi ta chöchinge da jakab chishu da jaga lomba chagora hindu gi chöba tsama 장견 도서기 다지 아니 땅원네 타네 콘즈 깔경생데 다 콘즈 시기어스 원네 당만 점버여스 약부 쇼여스 아니 두 진다지 소소기 다지 깔경 최고 삼능이다 아니 지단데 샤드페 뉴뇽르스다 라야기 뉴뇽베레스 아 임바이나야 베트 깔경 지역이 탑시 제와인스라 장부시에는 로직다 다와 고사징에 아니 샷상마장 샨데 간섬지당은 빼시 겨거다 라 쇼기야 라니 아니 쇼그 데마치기나 아니 찍다 체가 있나 아니 체가 딘디 아니 나톨라심 데니 닝군 페디로 아니 공다 추즈다 추드 체가 쭉지라 술래온디 데니 쇼기 심샤디 아니 믹섬니 데니 나고나라 데니 아니 소지 겨장 치기요레스 게 gemni 겨거레스라 안 간섬질라 gonda dikyo ondi ani amju be ting slabdi amju be garu dusra odus kanga tiondi da yonsa marsa ne nge ani kaptu di ya ani shasa yang gotsu ba ins ra teninga australia yon nga tsarni dus chende kanji ngi suba de la yongum doste ani ta beti mayon na ko le tani ta chik tsend le tani ani nge karyon cheba na ta di yang gensen kazus yome tia sosu samdaya jire do asirwa nge tes chik ani pigi ge sagoya de sache ani karyon chiyon ge ani nge mese nanglo la ya chik nambi chilo lobzhong chiya za di toni mele pendo chin ta gyurumbu roji de toba na ani tia ko gensen mewa chik remundo samdi tu chini ngara la ya ani roba ro she chini nga dus rogu yes.
So, and then, in fact, I have, spent many years in India, and in India is probably one of the largest country of Hindu practitioners. So most of them were complete vegetarian. And if you see one practitioner who completely rely on vegetarian diet, it's extremely inspiring to see that. But when I try to do that, when I try to follow the same step, I could not kind of continue because of my own kind of physical condition. For instance, I tried to become complete vegetarian several times. But then when I was one occasion I tried that in India, but then during that time we had to get up early in the morning and to memorize a page or 2 pages from the text. And then during the daytime we have to go to receive teachings and to debate, and we would return by probably around 10 p.m. in the evening. And after that, we have to revise what we have memorized early, and then we have to sit with closed eyes in the kind of a dark place and try to revise what we have memorized during that time. So because of a weak health condition, sometimes I would hear kind of this piercing sound, and I would feel very weak. So therefore, I thought, well, this is not going to help. And then I started to take non-vegetarian again. And then even after coming to Australia, I tried to become complete vegetarian. Few attempts to do that, but my physical condition does not support that. So therefore, I thought, well, then another choice is completely ignore the physical condition and become a complete vegetarian. Then it may kind of ultimately destroy one's health, and I'm not very sure how that is kind of benefiting to self and others. So then I try to focus on my health by and then try to kind of contribute others through whatever I learned, and to try to teach others. So that's how I would kind of manage.
karsa shembadi khalasda
단다 소디 디르게라 다 직미기 다 샤산이 줘봐 샤드 벤처리 다 지게 다 방도게 ndebado 디수수 땅지 간데 치토를 내줘라 지금서 내가 지 진이 존나 디치 마롱 바테나 다 디수수면이 땅지 치토에 릭지다 땅지 치토 마라 직 진이 존나 람서 지 쇼레 용도다 디 땅지로 디 간데 치토 그랬어
제가 나로는 당지 치토 마송스 장부시에는 장부 등한 장부시에도 기정별에도 라 안다차자 로진 로든 딘도 당한 로진나 지전 당지 치 마투야디 엔징아 추 사야 가탄 당지 치 마도 디 야치 야타망가 메스 이나야 안지 수빈네 당딘 교와 첨부 로 강한 태원디 다디 가서 다지 지 디그면도 왔어라 지 디그면도 왔어 이나 용땅 아니 쪼쪼드다 예미기 돌아서 다운디 지 아니 지 샬라야 차고 마기야기 다 편도 자식이 거다 예미로 아니 세비 세와다 제와지다 레도 왔어라 세와다 제와지 레도 왔다 샤사야 근데 미지기 소주기 샤 아니 테지 코네 세바나 다 칸다저 다 데지 버러러 딘디기 사운다운디 오늘 단내 있다 지 착삼세도 싸우니 매아지다 용투사레스 대치 온디기 아니 다 예미 돌때 사운다 투바나 데니 뇽타야도 자시야타메 탄투 그레스
So, honestly speaking, I kind of could not control myself from becoming a kind of vegetarian. I had to rely on non-veg due to my physical condition. But generally speaking, if you could think about the pros and cons of consuming meat or whatever thing that we are basically engaging, then it will definitely help us to refrain from engaging from such actions if that is not suitable. So if we could reflect more about um, consuming meat, so far as I'm concerned, I'm not kind of consuming meat, not because I've craved the taste, but rather due to my physical situation. So the point is that if you could reflect about the pros and cons and shortcomings of consuming meat or shortcomings of whatever action that we tend to engage, then it will help us to refrain from doing that, refrain from engaging in that.
근데 게지다 지 사고 총바나 아니 지 디체도 아니 닌지 곰야 물론 갸야 더서 하장 계시면 차고레스 라 안주지 아니 답 젠지기 샤드 세온디 소소단 제와치 용거라다 제와지 차자라서 제와지 기 토니 아니 파쇼말 물론 갸와나 물론 디난 줍체 용거르다 ngal nugre samchin pedi yukshawana deyan di ani yang soso chikbu randon da deya doji chawana di yang ani labchen se ki chagyo mares ro ta chi shen la ya pembi chet ani shen la mi ani sem ting ni ngo malom cheni ani chi ta nga detang chi yongba na nge chi detang di toni kazu tutu ji gi shen la ya pendo chigu sambita kolong chi ro chinjong gon lobjong che to ba na diki tu gres tenri ji gi toni long che ba na ani shu shu gi ta nyeba chimbuta yor samgu mu dos ro
Yes. And then even if you had to consume meat, um, when you consume meat of that kind of weight, you kind of, uh, create a kind of connection with that animal. So with that, if you could also pray for that, it will also have some impact. Because so far as prayer is concerned, when you make a prayer with having some connection, then we believe that it has no stronger kind of impact. And then on the other hand, if you try to refrain from eating meat by thinking that that is bad for you alone, then that is also related with kind of self interest alone. And if you avoid eating meat just because it's going to be bad for you, then that motivation is again kind of tainted with self-interest, which is not again a great thing to do. But even if you had to consume meat, but if your motivation is to kind of helping others with your health, If you are healthy, then of course you can contribute and you can help others and serve others. If your motivation is that, then there is some how to say significance for doing that.
Tabena ta tensan yo marmada ngima dojimba ani sel tawazo sosozo kala soya diyo mar sel longa drogores. Sel longa drogores. Mazan chik zandro, ni zandro, sum zandro marana ani nima dila kala sa chogo maresta. Ta mazan droni kala di ngan tiri nyingu kala ji tero chis lavdi mazan di kare treba di saya remado damka chisa yo mares. Ra. Ta di mazan di tre yud maase bayna mazan di suzu puwa na lu yud maase bayna ta ngala niu dusin na maase bayna ta champagne ki samlo ro di kiya khanda chis tes nyo song asira pigi khala di chola tang song asira ta pigi khala soya ki chidu ta ani lega mambu shu che zari khala soya zari ta di ngi sagi mensi la bayna di ngala niu gris la bayna ta di randun chikbo zira cha song ra diyan takda chi degi mudu asira wada dinti mambu yoris tara dinti mambu samtang pe mambu warta shib sakbu samtang bayna teni tayan tela chigi yoris tara ta chigi yoris tara.
And then in the ancient time, monks need to rely on alms. They do not have their own kind of kitchen to cook food. They had to rely on alms. And according to the tradition, they would usually go for alms. And if you go to the first family, and if they have no food to offer, you need to go to the second house. And then if also they have no food, then you go to the third. And if the third house also has no food, then that time you can't seek more alms. After kind of, seeking alms from three families, then you have to kind of skip the meal for that day. And the point is that usually when you go for alms, whatever that family offers you, you can't reject it, or you have to accept whatever they are offering. And there are a few reasons why you do that. When somebody offers you food, they offer you with respect. And when you refused by saying that this is not suitable for me, or this is not good for my health, and so on and so forth, then you're basically kind of violating, or you're hurting their sentiments. You can't do that. So when you seek alms, you have to accept whatever they are offering. So therefore, there are many things that we need to take into consideration with regard to such practices.
Nanzu gu subu gu top geya diya ani kechimbu pechago res. Ra subu top shu di nyam bayna lodab di nyam gu data. Ra nganzu le tangbo gagi subu gu top shu nyam bayna lodab nyam gu re. Lodab nyam bayna lobzhong kanya che tugu ma res. Samdang tugu ma res. Tenza chik karso da chik ta nisu ma longa saya chik warta. Ra hajang ki pe ani chik kala da tenri tola ya ngam chawa mayimba. An chik subu ki tan chik men da drawi ani kase chik gongi shiba jura. O dus ten ani chik susu subu detang dang yagbu yabi kabdula ani kazu tup tup ki ani champagne chin droba yana an mesi tin da digi yores rwa. Da dili laji an nganzu che tuyas ki yo marwas.
Mm. And of course, our physical strength or health is again very important. If our physical health is weak, then of course it will also undermine our mental strength. And when there is weak mental strength, um, when our power of mind becomes weak, then we can't contemplate and we can't even engage in any practices. So therefore, it's really crucial to choose a kind of middle way that is free from two extremes, extreme of overindulgence in eating too much food out of craving and so on and so forth. But then again, another extreme is extreme of not eating at all, even though your body requires these sustenance. So therefore, we should eat food as if we are kind of taking medicine. Medicine is to benefit and help our body. Similarly, we should eat food with that kind of intention.
나다 샤메 칼라디 약슈 샤메 칼라디 코 비기 샤메 짜망 상에도 통원되는 직 아니 시대직 열어서 야가다 야가 주는 무대라 야가 소족이 아니 직 샤메 사간도는 좋은디 아니 켈라가 로마 침부 짜마스 아니 쪼제간데 샤 디나로라야 아니 샤메 칼라즈루 세온디 오네 직 아니 직 시대로 쉬어서 배야고 열었어. 진짜 먼저 가주 톱두기 지 수부처된데 계심으로 왔다. 수부처된 계심으로 왔다. 수부처된 매나 되니 간시 두고문다. 다 수부처된다. 데베톤이 되니 가주 톱두지기 아니 세 깔경 땐 두바이나 되니 저단 배야고로 왔어. 이내다 된상 깔경 임바이나야 지 아니 제저슈 침부세야다. 다 딘디기다 아 당연히 깔래 가보다 베레도 왔어. 메시키야디. 로 세와 메비 메시키야다다. 지단 깔래 가보 쇼요라 야나. 이네 깔래 가보 디나노래 가주 톱톱기 아니 깔래 gem는 드로바나 다디 랍첸리스.
If we could completely become vegetarian, definitely it's very kind of, the people who completely rely on vegetarian food, they have a unique kind of peaceful demeanor. For instance, if you go to India, where they serve completely vegetarian food, first they would place a big palm banana leaf in front of you, and on top of that they would put different vegetables, small portions of vegetables. And then if you look at that, they have a very unique, peaceful kind of, appearance to it, very peaceful demeanor to it. So therefore, the point is, if by considering one's health, then if you could engage in rely on vegetarian food to the best of our ability, then it's really good. But in this modern time, even sometimes vegetarian products are indirectly causing harm to others' life. So sometimes it feels very difficult to kind of get anything that is completely, that does not cause any violence to others' life. But the thing is that we should try to live by avoiding violence to the best of our ability.
More questions? Please do that. Yeah,
Yes.
okay. Please.
I have a real similar problem.
Please, can you take this up?
Oh,
Yeah.
hello. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a similar problem with people wearing very strong perfume in our modern world, and it really disturbs. It creates a lot of disturbance to me, and I'm aware of how toxic it is for the environment and for people's health. And I guess it's the same as eating meat or vegetables. What is the best thing you can do about it?
Tanda morang ta kangi di dawu chik chedik dosa pecha shena mi rik chiki tanda perfume di tima shimbo di pe mambu torgi doge la
Mhm.
tima shimbo di mi rik chiki ta di tima shimbo di mambu shu torgi yorde yani shenpa la yang kashi tima di la matringi dini yungurwa dindi rik tabu ta yang rik chik di tima di mambu torna yang kuyu la yu ni nui chunchi yungu yisar di chidu dindi ki netang mambu chagi dos ta dindi ki netang kapsula ta chik dongle chitang rawu di takshu kadi yoras.
미셴박 티마토르 데야디.
No, no. Mishimbagi timator de ta morang chita ta mishimbagi timator na di so da tima shimechi torgi ra. Yani di torbal tini ya rik tanda tima shimbo di chugi mendo agila. Shembal matri ta torba yunzin chini shembal matri ba tindi yungu da. Ani ya yuni kuyu la nyokin chungdi ta tindi nedang chungbi kabla ta nga zo di dongle kandis chi gores.
다 디인기레스로 다 nganzu che thuya jora da nganzu che thuya jida nganzu che ma thuya ji ra ni yora da nganzu che thuya di nganzu bezun chen rigba drum ne che goya de pe kechi mora da sra pena chi sozu ngone shen la neba che di kagdam che ga wang cha ma na sozu la yora da di kechi shu dire da ma do shen ki chaju chi rangi pe ani chik tangzin chego sambi loji kiye dewa na tadi peshi dunga tebe soroji res rwa nganzo shengi chaju tagas tangzin che toyagi tar rewa koro yo marwas rwa ine ta chik sozu gu samzu shesa yo na samzu she ani sozu pigi la ya chik rogba che tuksa ji yo na rogba che di tuksa ji me na 아니 쉬우지 디토레 사운드안 되바나 아니 소수 마기바 소르지 마레베스 니 섬네 디리로 통고도스라
So whenever we face such situation, um, we need to consider two things. There are something that we can do we can do something about it, and then there are something that we cannot do anything about it. And then it's crucial to focus on what we can do with regard to such a situation. And sometimes if it usually when we try to dictate, or when we try to how to say, a kind of influence others' behavior, then it becomes sometimes difficult, because it's very difficult to kind of dictate, or it's really difficult to influence um, others' behavior. But in such situations, we can, of course, share our thoughts. We can often, discuss about it, tell about the situation. And then if that can change the situation, that's really good. But then if that's beyond our capability, or if we can't do anything about that situation, then, thinking too much about that will only bring kind of difficulty to oneself.
아직 디 탑시 친지 말로와 니댕이다 템버산지 좀 된디 콩으로 와서라 콩기다 간졸에 디 탑로 때원디 랑기 룽아 이스음기 아니 군주 도미야 디 소소라 완자 요리 소소라 니바 요리 소소라 톱단 요반자 디송 톡마데 디송고도 마도 kerangi chik mig tonza amjo kozo gi chik zheng lunga yisum dom gorisin zawanin sungumun dasira tirda tinganzu semla shagwa da hajan kishin boreshas.
Yes. So the kind of best advice that Buddha gave with regard to um, um, such situation, he's first talk about um, controlling one's own body, speech, and mind. He didn't talk about controlling others' body, speech, and mind. So the point is that when we face such situations, instead of focusing on others, if we could try to focus on one's own body, speech, and mind, then it will be kind of easier to deal with the situation.
Thank you so much. 도전.
Final Lamrim prayer, page 9 in a small booklet. From my two types of merits vast space that I have amassed from working with effort at this practice for a grand length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds' wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all lives, Manjushri. May I find the best of complete graded parts of the teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by my practice. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings with the points of the path as I have discerned them. May I uphold the Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion, in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread, or once spread have declined, may I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be grounded boundless peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time. By even this graded path to enlightenment completed, due to the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons. May all human and non-human beings who eliminate adversity and create conducive conditions for practicing the excellent path never be parted in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtues practices, may he always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere. And pray for the long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Incomparably kind and supreme Tenzin Gyatso, the wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, may you have a long life, and all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. And I pray for the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losang father and son, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings. Through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for mother living beings you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss! Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels, and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in a glory for fortunate disciples. Thank you very much. And just a small announcement. Tomorrow we have starting our Nune retreat. It's a 16 days retreat. Will be happening here in the Gompa. So there will be no teaching the next 2 Fridays and next 2 Sundays with Geshela. But teaching will continue on 13 June on Friday. Thank you very much.